I love that song. Just do it. All right. Well, welcome back. Today is our speaker is Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington. She became an ordained religious science minister in 1998 and served as the senior minister for a religious science church community in Phoenix, Arizona for almost 22 years. She is also a licensed Art of Feminine Presence master teacher. Additionally, she is a certified real love coach as well as a positive intelligence coach. Reverend Dr. Michele left the pulpit ministry in 2018 and began her new ministry as the founder of Unleash Your Life Consulting. In this new role, she is a national speaker. She offers classes and workshops and one-to-one mentoring, all aimed at empowering those who want to open themselves to fully embrace their dreams. And in 2022, she became the executive director of the affiliated New Thought Network. I hope that you will join us after the service at cslmidtown.org on our Zoom link to meet with Dr. Whittington and just discuss her talk. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate that introduction. That was a lot, but thank you so much. It's really my joy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, CSL Midtown, and everybody who makes this service happen. I just really want to give a shout out because this just doesn't happen automatically. There's a lot of people behind the scenes making sure things go smoothly and work perfectly, and it does. So thank you for making it really easy for me just to pop in here from Phoenix, Arizona, early, by the way, in the morning, and be with you. So I have a question for all of you who are watching and listening, and that is, have you ever been presented with an opportunity, like a big opportunity? Or maybe you have had an idea, a divine idea that is, it's bigger than you've ever done before. And rather than say, oh, yay, you say, no way, I can't do that. It's too much. It's too big. It's too scary. I don't know how. All those things that come up. I suspect we've all had that. I suspect we've all had that. So if I were in a room with you and I could see you, I would say, raise your hand if that's happened. But I'm going to ask you to raise your hand anyway, even though I can't see you. I know that there are hands being raised that that's happened for all of us. But then maybe if that has happened for you, you start to think about it more. It actually won't leave you alone. This idea or this opportunity won't leave you alone. It just keeps nagging at you like, you really... This would be a good thing for you. This is where you want to go. This would be life transforming. It just won't leave you alone. So you give it more thought. Maybe you pray about it. I hope you pray about it. That's always a good thing, to pray about it. You journal about it. You talk to every friend you know in the world about it. And you start to realize that, yes, maybe I should do this. And your should turns to, I will do this. All right, I will face my fear. Thank you, by the way, Judy, for that beautiful opening reading. Perfect for today. I will face my fear. And as Karen Drucker sang about, just do it. So you start moving forward to do this thing. And then all these roadblocks hit, challenges, issues. And you start thinking, well, I thought I was supposed to do this, but maybe I'm not. Maybe Spirit's got another idea for me. And then you go through that journey, and ultimately you either do or you don't do the thing. Well, this morning, I want to tell you about an experience that I had that went from won't to will to obstacles to did. And more importantly than telling you my story, what really is important is what happened for me in the deepening into my spirituality, in the ability to remember what I know, but sometimes forget, and the ability to practice these beautiful teachings that we have in science of mind, in religious science, in New Thought, that help us navigate life. So I'm going to tell you my story. And hopefully that's okay with you. And within that story, you're going to learn a number of, or you're going to be reminded, probably, because you probably already know them, going to be reminded of a number of spiritual lessons. So here we go. First of all, my won't. I want to tell you about my big won't. Last October, I was invited to a leadership retreat in Ahmedabad, India. And it was a leadership retreat called the Gandhi 3.0 Leadership Retreat. So it was based on Gandhian leadership principles. And there were 40 leaders from around the world who were being personally invited to this event. And I was humbled by the invitation. I was honored to be considered for this. And to be 100% frank and honest with you, I was terrified at the prospect of going. Going to India has never been on my bucket list. I know there are many people who go and, you know, they find a spiritual awakening there, but frankly, India scared me. Too chaotic, too difficult, too challenging, too scary. And frankly, the thought of traveling halfway across the world by myself, even though I'm a pretty independent person, that also didn't ring my chimes. So despite being honored, I had an internal no. I just, no, I can't do that. But I have to admit, I didn't say no to the person who invited me. I said what sometimes we will say as a little bit of a stalling tactic. And so just tell me in the chat or talk to me later when we come back after this time and have a conversation together if you've ever used this stalling technique, which is, let me pray on that. So I said, let me pray on that. Now, the good news is I actually did pray on it, right? I did pray on it. I did journal about it. I did think about it. And I did something really powerful for me. I asked a question that I know to ask. And the question was, what gifts and opportunities are being presented here? And I did that in a prayerful, meditative state. What gifts and opportunities are being presented to me here? And when I asked that question, I got what I like to say, a full body yes. It was a yes, actually in the form of a thought, which was, this is going to be life transforming for you, Michele. And you cannot not say yes. So my first spiritual deepening here, my first practice, my first offering to you is that if you're facing something that's been presented to you or it's come from within you that you scares you, but it won't let you go, ask that question. What gifts and opportunities are being presented here? Because here's what I know. Within every single one of us, there is the answer, because the divine lives in us. And so there is a divine answer to that question, but we have to ask it in order to get the answer. And I love this quote from Ralph Waldo Trine, fooled you, not Emerson, in his book, In Tune with the Infinite. Ralph Waldo Trine is considered one of the fathers, one of the many fathers, founders, if you will, people who began the New Thought movement. So in his book, In Tune with the Infinite, he wrote, there is an inner spirit or guide that rules and regulates our lives when we are brought into that state or condition whereby it can make itself known. That question, what gifts and opportunities are being presented for me here, puts us in the state or condition to let spirit guidance be known in us. So that's what I did. I asked that question. I got a full body yes. Now here's the deal. Even if you get a full body yes to something and you know you're going to move forward on it, it does not mean there won't be fear. Darn it. I wish it did. I wish that meant we wouldn't be afraid, but it doesn't mean that. And I learned that great lesson when I walked on fire with Edwene Gaines. Some of you probably know her. She's a beautiful spiritual teacher on prosperity. And she had a retreat center in Midtown, Alabama. And I went there for a retreat and it culminated with a fire walk. And I was 100% guided to walk on fire, and I was equally terrified to do it. And Edwene gave us some advice that is my second principle for us this morning, and a principle that I followed in this journey. Now I've gotten a yes, I'm going to go, but I'm still scared. When I was standing at the threshold of walking on fire, Edwene said, here's how you're going to do this. You're going to take a breath. You're going to expect the best, and you're going to take the first step. Expect the best, take a breath, expect the best, take the first step. And what you will find is that what felt like a wall of fear is really just a veil, and you'll walk right through it. Ernest Holmes says in 365 Science of Mind, we should all learn to live in a state of joyous and enthusiastic expectancy. This is the principle upon which faith, or the answer to prayer, is based. Take a breath, expect the best, take the first step. That's my second spiritual lesson here this morning, and my own personal spiritual deepening as I went through this journey. And so what was my step? And I did have to take a breath. I did have to expect the best. What was my step? My step was to say out loud to the person who invited me, I will take this journey. I will come to this leadership retreat. I will travel halfway around the world to a country that scares me so that I can have life transforming experiences that I don't even know what they'll be. So then I started preparation, and I will not go through all the details that were required, but one thing that I had to do was to get a visa. You have to have a visa to go to India. And again, I will not give you all the gory details of the arduous journey that I went on to get this visa, but it was filled with roadblocks, such as not once, but twice, I was rejected for the visa. I don't know why. They don't tell you why. I was just stamped on an email stamp, rejected. Must be my shady past. I don't know. It caught up with me finally. They found out, oh no, but I was rejected. And so we decided to go a different, I was working with some people from the organization that held this event. And they said, we have to go a different route. We can't do the e-visa, which we were trying to do. It's not working. So you need to apply to the consulate, the Indian consulate, and there's one in San Francisco. I didn't have to physically go there. I'm in Phoenix. I didn't have to physically go there, but I had to fill out a whole new application, a whole new process, lots more information. And I had to mail in everything, including my firstborn child. Well, okay, not quite, but it felt like it. But the one thing I did have to mail in was my passport. I had to mail in my passport, which caused me a bit of consternation, the thought of mailing in my passport. By the time we're here, by the time I'm mailing this in, it is 10 days before I'm supposed to leave. 10 days before I'm supposed to leave. And by the way, I had called the consulate to ask them some questions, and they told me in no uncertain terms, the minimum amount of time it takes to get a visa approved is 15 days, sometimes 60 days, up to 60, but 15 is the minimum. I had 10. Here comes spiritual lesson number 3. I trusted this. If this is mine to do, I will get this visa. And if it is not mine to do, I won't. I also, second part of this was I surrendered. I surrendered the process, and I surrendered the outcome. Oh, that's a big one. Take a breath on that one. How often do we not trust? Do we not surrender? We have to, as the reading said this morning at Judy's reading, it was so perfect. We want to control things. We want to control the outcome. We want to control how it happens. Trust and surrender. And so I trusted that I could put my visa in an envelope, or not my visa, my passport, and send it off. And I trusted that if I was supposed to go to this event, to this trip, I would, and I surrendered the process as well as the outcome. I popped that in the mail and I let go. I had taken every step I knew to take. On the 8th day So I mailed it on the 10th, 10 days before I was to leave. On the 8th day before I was supposed to leave, I got an email from the consulate in San Francisco saying, your paperwork has been processed and is being returned to you. My paperwork has been processed and it's being returned to me. Nothing about whether or not I actually got the visa. So, okay, at least it's coming back. Now, here's a miracle. I'm hoping you're noticing a miracle. I was aware of the miracle. And the miracle is this. I was told it would take a minimum of 15 days to process this application. They turned around it in 2 days. They processed my visa application. That itself is a miracle. So on the Monday before I'm supposed to leave for India, not knowing if I'm going to go or not, trusting and surrendering, taking my steps, expecting the best, breathing, I receive in the mail, I have visual aids, I receive in the mail this overnight package, whoop, that's it, that I had provided to return my paperwork. With excitement, I must admit I was pretty excited to get this. I open it, I rip it open, and I find in it this. This is what's in it. Nothing else. Nothing else. No notice, no letter, no visa, no rejection, no nothing. Simply my passport, which, by the way, I was very grateful to have back. I flipped through it. I don't see anything. I say to myself, well, I guess the universe has answered my question. Am I going or not? I've trusted. If I'm supposed to go, I will. I'll get the visa. I didn't get it. It's not here. So I was actually okay with that because I really was in the trust and surrender. And so I sent a word out to a lot of people that were very curious about whether I was going and were following this journey. And I said, well, I did not get it. I did not get the visa. I'm not going. And I have to say, I am so overwhelmed with gratitude, not just to have this back, but gratitude for these lessons and deepenings that I got to experience. The practices, the spiritual practices that I teach and that I believe, I got to practice them and I got to live them and I got to go on this journey. And I'm so grateful that I got offered this beautiful opportunity. And it is okay that I'm not going. One of the people that I had sent such a message out to was the person who invited me. He lives in India. They're 12 and a half hours ahead of us. So I sent that mass email out about 12:30 p.m. my time, which was 1 o'clock a.m. their time. And so it was many, many, many hours, about 6.5 hours or so later that I get, and I can feel the urgency in the text. I get a text from my friend in India who invited me. And the urgency in the text, I felt the energy of urgency. And the words were this: did you look inside your passport? Did you go through every single page and look? And I thought to myself, I said aloud, well, I looked, but then I decided to go through every single page. And I'm turning pages. And finally, halfway through, my passport is, if you can see this, a visa to go to India, which, by the way, is good for 10 years. Right in the middle, here it was. So I want to add a 5th spiritual lesson, spiritual learning. And the 5th one is be willing to look beyond what you think you see. Because the miracle might just be hiding in plain sight. So my won't to my will to my I'm not sure to my I can't to my I did happened, because I did go to India and I did have a life transforming experience. And in the couple of minutes that I have left, I want to tell you about one concept that I heard a lot about in the 5 days of this retreat. Remember, the retreat was based on Gandhian leadership principles. Now, I know who Gandhi is, of course, but I've not studied his life. I know he freed India from British rule. I know that. I know he did it non-violently, but as I said, I have never really studied Gandhi. I didn't know him deeply. I know him much more deeply now, and what he stood for and how he did what he did. One of the terms that we heard a lot of was a term that Gandhi lived by, and it's called soul force. Soul force was defined as an inner strength, an inner wisdom, an inner knowing that we have when we abide in the eternal. Ugh, that just makes me have chills. I'm going to say it again. It's an soul force is an inner strength, an inner wisdom, inner knowing that we have when we abide in the eternal. Ernest Holmes refers to soul force in his book, It's Up to You, when he writes, "Let us know that the kingdom of God inhabits every soul. No one has ever tried and failed in a conscious union and cooperation with the universe itself." That's defining soul force. That's saying what the power of soul force is. Here's what Gandhi said in a writing about the power of soul force. And this was his philosophy in life. "Having flung aside the sword, there is nothing except the cup of love, which I can offer to those who oppose me. It is by offering that cup that I expect to draw them close to me." He said to the people that he didn't oppose people. And I know in our religious science, we don't like to use the word oppose. We don't have opposition. I understand that. And I'm using that word because Gandhi used it. But he said he didn't oppose anyone, but he did oppose practices. He did oppose oppressive behavior. He did oppose India being ruled by England. But he said directly to people who were oppressing him and his people, he said to them, "I do not believe in what you are doing, and I do oppose what you are doing, but I love you, and I will do no harm to you." This is soul force coming out here. This is what soul force does. He said that he didn't say, but it was said about him that he was nonviolent. He did everything nonviolently. I've learned that it was so much more than that. It was so much more than nonviolence. He did everything with this deep, profound love. So much so that he actually spent a great deal of time before he did his work in India. He spent a great deal of time in South Africa. And he worked for the rights of Indians living in South Africa to get them rights that they did not have. And he did it with love, nothing but love, never any violence, never physical, never anything like that, just love. And when he finally won the rights for the people that he was trying to do, that one of the generals who opposed him vehemently, who was his, let's quote unquote, enemy, said about Gandhi, "I was honored to lose to that man." That's the power of soul force. when he did that in South Africa, the people in India, the government, the Indian government, the powers, the Indian powers in India were watching him and were wanting him to come back to India and free them from England. And he finally did go back to India. And they said, okay, let's go. Now let's do it. You're going to now lead the charge. And he said, no, I'm not ready. I'm not internally ready. He didn't use these words, but I'm going to paraphrase Gandhi now. What he meant was, I need to deepen my soul force so that I can come from the purest possible place before I lead us to freedom. And he spent 15 years in prayer, in meditation, in contemplation, getting himself ready to do the miraculous work that he did to free India from England. Your spiritual journey might not be for you to take 15 years in basic solitude, deepening. But my question for you this morning is, what is it? What is a deepening? How might you go deeper, deeper, deeper into how you abide in the eternal? What are your spiritual practices? How could they be expanded? How could they be deeper? And I offer you these ideas that I have given you this morning, which I'm going to reiterate, as ways to deepen your soul force. So the first one is, when you are presented with this opportunity, with a divine idea that you say, no, I can't do it. At least ask the question, what gifts and opportunities might this present to me? Ask that question. That takes you deep within and gives you the space to hear the divine's answer. And if you get a yes, like I got a yes for India, that doesn't mean the fear is going to go away. Just know that it doesn't mean the fear is going to go away. And so then you follow the beautiful advice of Edwene Gaines, which is, take a breath, expect the best, take the first step. The third, trust life to be unfolding exactly as it should, and surrender the process as well as the outcome as you continue to take your steps. Number 4, be in gratitude no matter what the outcome is. Be in gratitude. Number 5, be willing to look beyond what you think you see, because the miracle might be right there in front of you. And finally, do whatever it takes to continue your deepening of your own soul force. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. Namaste.